All right. So when I came up with the topic of this video, I'm not gonna lie, I felt pretty proud of myself because I feel like this is something that like nobody talks about. Like I think appropriately so. Kevin Durant gets absolutely grilled for, in my opinion, did he have the freedom to make this decision? Absolutely. Of course he did. But in my opinion, it was the most cowardly decision I've ever seen in NBA history. When he left the Oklahoma City Thunder that had a 3-1 lead over the 2016 Golden State Warriors, blew that lead when he had a terrible performance in the final game. Him and Russell Westbrook were really bad in game 6 and 7 of that series. So they choked it. They choked it. And they had an opportunity to be NBA champions in 2016. Would have been a great series between them and the Cavs, too. I do think like OKC had a pretty good matchup
Yeah.
against that Cavs team. So I think there's a very good chance that if they get past Golden State, they end up winning it all.
Yeah.
But they blew that lead, and then he joins the 73-9 Golden State Warriors, who just lost in Game 7 after they were missing their starting center, Andrew Bogut.
Hmm.
After Steph hadn't looked the same after hyperextending his knee, after the small forward that he was replacing, Harrison Barnes, had been throwing up bricks the entirety of the 2016 playoffs. He's a seamless plug-in. He's just going to plug in right there and join the 73-9 team who wasn't at full strength, who had Draymond Green suspended, who just lost by 4 points in the NBA Finals. That's the team he joined. It was the most obvious NBA champion I've ever seen. The day that happened, the day he joined the Warriors, I said on Facebook, congratulations to the 2017 Warriors for winning the championship. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. So again, wasn't surprising. So I do believe Kevin Durant is appropriately criticized. It's appropriately held against his legacy. He could have undone some of that if he won a championship since then, but he hasn't. And he's now trying to gaslight us into believing that that was one of the most difficult championship runs ever, which is nonsense.
Yeah, that's insane.
My question is, and what starts this topic, I'm going to pass this off to you, Dario.
Yeah.
Why the hell does Steph Curry dodge all of the blame for this?
Yeah.
Because if we're going to hold this against Steph, Steph had a 73-9 team. Steph just broke the record for the most wins in a season. Steph just became the first unanimous MVP in NBA history. And now he adds Kevin Durant and cruises to 2 more championships, which we do count to his legacy, which is a part of the conversation when we're talking about whether or not he's a greater point guard than Magic Johnson on the all-time list. Why does Steph get a pass? Do you think he should get a pass?
I don't think he necessarily should get a full pass. I think the reason he does though. Yeah, I'm gonna go more towards what I think why I think he does, and I'll get to my
Sure.
opinion on that. Um, I think it's because he already they already proved that they could win a championship
Sure.
without KD, and with Steph being the best player and the engine that runs that team. And I think during that time frame, after 2017 through 2019, when they're that dynasty, that the it's really Steph's game, right? Game plan, right? Like the Warriors are centered or yes, centered around Steph, like his play style, and then it was easy to plug and play KD. So
Right.
it was KD being the ultimate piece to add to that team to make them unstoppable, and Steph being the reason that was even possible. And I think that's why he gets a majority of the praise and he doesn't get the backlash for it.
Right.
But it for sure is one of the probably honestly it might be even more soft than what KD did, really, because if you remember, Steph made sure to fly in to have that conversation with KD
Right.
and tell him, like, I'm willing to step down so then you can be the guy. Like, he those things make you very soft, but I think it's also, you at the time, LeBron James, or at least mostly everybody in the world felt LeBron James is the best player in the world, and
Sure.
Steph and it felt like the Warriors' edge was no longer there, and I honestly I kind of feel that way because I do feel like the Cavs kind of broke them a little mentally.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean LeBron going into, I think, after Game 6 goes into the locker room saying that we broke them or something. I think in much less appropriate words for YouTube.
Sure.
But so I do feel like understanding Steph's not as good as LeBron James, and then obviously like their second guy, Kyrie, is more of a guy that you're really comparing to Steph. So they probably felt like we need to do something to make us more competitive, but it really just made them unstoppable. And
Yeah.
I definitely think it was a soft move by Steph. I'm a fan, so I kind of sweep it under the rug a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's mainly because before KD they won a championship, during KD, and then even after the fact he
Yeah.
was able that. And I think that's what really like locks it in and solidifies it, where you can't really bring up KD as much because in 2022 they had no reason winning that championship, and they won that championship mainly due to Steph Curry. So
Sure. Sure. Yeah, I could see that. I guess when it just comes into like ring counts, you want to start being competitive in that sense. Like, don't get me wrong,
yeah,
Magic had a lot of support. Magic was drafted first overall because of a trade where the Lakers lucked into the first overall pick because of a coin flip. So he
yeah,
was joining an MVP caliber player in Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So don't get me wrong. I know between Kareem, between Worthy, Bob McAdoo coming off the bench, Michael Cooper, one of the greatest role players of all time, I can go on and on. Magic had help. But I don't think there's ever been an easier road to the championship than especially the 2017 Warriors because they were just so stacked and so built for it, man. Like, go
okay.
ahead.
All right, just to add, and it was also Magic still had to go against a dynasty in
Sure.
Boston. Like maybe you don't consider them dynasty because they never won the 3 and 5,
I
whatever.
definitely do.
Yeah,
I
but I
still
felt
do.
like
I still
Boston's
do.
a dynasty. But you knew like the other side of that was a war. This is a war zone between Boston and Lakers, so it never felt like Magic was overwhelming them. In this case, it
Sure.
was like it felt like a mollywop. And the only other time that you can say possibly where you had that level was what 83, the when Moses Malone did the same
Yeah,
thing.
Philadelphia.
Yeah,
Yeah, where he
that's
left the Rockets and
probably
went to the 76ers. Yeah,
yeah,
and that
but it was
that
still
76ers team that
organization.
he joined had just been to the finals as well. And so
Yeah,
then they bring in the reigning MVP Moses Malone
yeah.
to join the team. So yeah, kind of similar in that sort of way. But
And they still go. Sorry, my bad. And they still go against the Lakers. Like so,
sure.
it's not like you're. Oh, I mean, sure they made it look like they beat them badly too in that series,
Yeah,
but
swept them. Hmm.
it's still a amazing team that they're going against. I don't think anybody's thinking that 2017 Cavs was an amazing team. You could argue the Spurs possibly, but
Yeah.
then we had the cheap shot.
True. That's the thing. That something you mentioned about that. That's a part of it that frustrates me about NBA history is, you know, that they broke the Warriors. I could see that because again, they were on such a high, had just won 73 games. Steph's unanimous MVP, and for it all to come crashing down that way is brutal. With that being said, by the start of the 2016 to 2017 season, if they didn't have KD, am I supposed to believe they're not going to be on a revenge mission? You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of time for them to sit, deal with it, be sad with it, be in denial, and then eventually acceptance, and let's get into it and have a revenge mission. You know,
Yeah.
like, I feel like that could have been the way things went. But I think it would have been a much different team if the Warriors didn't have KD.
Yeah.
They probably, after they just went 73-9 and lost, I think they're cruising through the regular season. I think
Mhm.
now they're just conditioning themselves for the playoffs, and when the playoffs come along, they're hitting that switch. I
I
wish I
think
could
they
have
lose
seen
that
that.
third
That would have
game.
been sick, dude.
Yeah.
Like Warriors and Cavs of 2017 without that, and now maybe even Katie and OKC or Boston or whatever team he went to instead of the Warriors. You
Yeah.
know, maybe they're making noise in there too. But I think personally, I think you have some great points, but I think the biggest reason why we don't criticize Steph to the same extent is because he just wasn't the one who lost in that situation.
Yeah.
KD lost to Steph. Steph didn't lose to KD. So KD joining Steph just like looks worse in that sense.
Yeah.
But if you want to just talk about purely like an easy road and making like a ridiculous super team. I mean, it should apply to both of them.
Yeah,
It should
yeah, for
definitely
sure.
apply to both of them. And so, chat, let us know in the comment section. Do you think Steph Curry gets too much of a pass? I think me and Dario are kind of similar on this. Like, maybe he shouldn't get a full pass, but the fact that we don't hold that against his legacy in any way, shape, or form does baffle me a little bit.